far?
No, I mean
The far. The far.
I sort of like the direction you guys were taking it. You did a little bit here, here, here. You're doing the whole thing.
Right.
And in the editing, it could go back and forth.
Right.
In sections. Depends on it. Honestly, it's interesting just to hear from here. You took it here to here. Last time you talked about Vietnam. Now you talked a lot about a little bit about the mob and but you're still talking about painting.
Yeah, we got to keep the painting in there.
Well, that's it.
And I think we've done
See it.
that.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about any real mob stuff.
Well, I don't really want to get too into that, because then I feel like I'm doing another one of the fucking National Geographic things. I'm just so tired of talking about that.
Well, we can talk about it in a different way.
Like what?
Like, for example, I can ask you about, like what we were talking about the other day with Nino, like how you felt, what really underlying, like, I'll wait till Billy's
No,
done.
go ahead. I'm just adjusting.
The underlying feelings you had about the way he treated you and what went down with, feeling like, he treated you in a bad way, he passed you over in ways he tried to keep you down, and ultimately you felt betrayed.
Well, especially when they tried to whack me. I mean, you can't feel more betrayed than that.
Yeah, but before they tried to whack you.
Yeah, well, I didn't, I guess you could use that word, betrayed, but I don't know if that's the right word.
What is the right
I
word?
don't know.
You had your uncle raise you, and then you're working for him, he's paying you $250 a week. You're getting offers to do other types of business that ultimately you had to talk to him about, and he just kept saying no, kept you under his wing, but underpaid you and forced you to have to go outside to do stuff, which ultimately became a huge problem for you, right?
Yeah, that's the reason I had to leave New York, was because of that. But I'm just trying to figure out how we hook that in with the art, because what Billy said is really important.
You just talk. He can cut it later. You can just talk about stories, and then he can cut it together, right?
That's how it's gonna go. It's
Yeah.
like,
Just talk. Just like tell. I know the story, but talk a little bit about like what that was like, your relationship with Nino.
and if you feel, Dom, at any moment you feel uncomfortable talking in front of me,
Oh, no, this is all documented shit,
if
you know. I just get so tired of talking about that, But I get, if you feel that it'd be,
I feel it's important not to talk about like the stories necessarily of things that happen, more about the personal feelings of Nino raising you. Obviously you looked up to him and you had very fond feel. You loved the guy. He was your uncle, and you talk about him sometimes like you miss him and like very fondly, but then at the other way you also.
Well, that was what it was. It was like a love-hate relationship, I mean, I loved him for who he was to me, family-wise. But I couldn't stand him when he was just like using me to death, And I mean, I knew I was getting used, I mean, $250 a week, and they had me rigging like hand grenades in people's cars, blowing up fucking guys, shooting people in the fucking street for $250 a week.
Well, like you were saying, what about these guys after Carlo Gambino died and they opened up the books? A lot of guys got made that you felt were punks.
Not necessarily punks, but they just didn't ever have any work. You see, it used to be, in order to even get put up, you had to have work under your belt. And these guys just never did, One, like I told you, Joe Butch, who's an underboss. Now, well, he's in jail now, but he's an underboss in the family. Dogged it on a job we had to do. He got sick the night before and couldn't, But I mean, that's like a whole nother, thing to talk about,
We got all the time in the world. I mean, I just think that it relates a lot to, the mental space that you're in and who you are and became, these are the things you went through. Like when we were talking about the other day, you were, very passionate about saying, you know, I should have been at least, you know, looked at, and they just passed me over and said I was too young.
Yeah. And they made other guys my age. You know, it wasn't that I was too young. It was that
And weren't you an acting underboss when?
when Nino was away, I was an acting capo. And it's the only time, period, that a non-made guy was ever in that position. Ever. You know.